Hello and welcome back to Picks and Portraits. As a child of the 90s, I grew up on television. My childhood coincided with a boom period of both kids and adult-oriented animation that instilled in me a lifelong interest. Today I'd like to look back on the year 1999 and revisit some of the cartoons that made this time so special, specifically shows that were produced for Fox Television. Now to further clarify, we are going to be looking at adult-oriented primetime animation, so no Fox Kids, at least not in this video. I'm interested in exploring how shows debuted and the way they were received, as well as the state of existing shows during that year. So to get you in the proper headspace or mood to start, let's look at the aesthetics of Fox around this time. This was the future, the millennium. Their promos and bumpers featured overlays of the characters in the shows, the Fox logo in the background. Also tons of filters. They occasionally worked around color themes. If the show was sexy or steamy, they used red. Dramatic previews were in blue, comedy in purple. But for the most part, they defaulted to greens and blacks, very matrixy. They would often use the credits to promote other shows or the news. Most of the time it would be a preview for an upcoming episode of something, but sometimes it would be a piece of unique content, like Matt Groening teaching you how to draw Bender. Some of the live action shows on the network at this time included Action, an inside look at Hollywood that lasted one season, while The X-Files, That 70s Show, and Ally McBeal were amongst the network's most critically acclaimed shows. Reality-based programs were also taking off. Fox's Where Cops and World's Wildest Police videos aired, which I can't see going over very well here in 2020. Content aside, YouTube has virtually killed this format. When you were watching Fox in 1999, you may have seen commercials for the Sega Dreamcast or the marketing blitz surrounding Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. This was everywhere the summer of 1999, as were numerous collect call services, CALLATT. What can I say? Advertising works. In terms of Fox's branding, they had two slogans at this point, Nonstop Fox and the Just One campaign. Both would be parodied on the cartoons we're going to be looking at. The first is the show that made the network, The Simpsons. Now, The Simpsons has been covered ad nauseum on this channel, and this period found them at a very interesting point. They had been on the air for nearly a decade, and fans were beginning to tune out. This was their 10th/11th season. Because we're going by year, there's going to be some overlap, so we're going to be looking at both the winter-spring season as well as the fall. A lot of The Simpsons' heart was thrown out in favor of cheap gags and guest stars. This year alone saw Stephen Hawking, Mel Gibson, and Isabella Rossellini. Mike Scully was the showrunner at this time, and he takes a lot of flack for ruining this series, but I think there is still some good stuff here, like Viva Ned Flanders, and the holiday special, Grift of the Magi, though there is definitely a dip in quality. Still, it is very much presented as the network's shining star. Playing second fiddle was King of the Hill. This was Mike Judge's follow-up to Beavis and Butthead. It offered a satirical look at rural America, specifically Texas. 1999 was King of the Hill's third/fourth season. The major story arc between these two seasons was Peggy falling out of an airplane and basically breaking her body. This happened during an attempt to spice up her and Hank's relationship for their anniversary. King of the Hill always had great cliffhangers. In the season 3 finale, we see her jump and fall, ending with the question, well, did she die? She didn't. And much of the early fourth season is dedicated to her learning how to walk again. The fourth season also gave us some of my favorite episodes, Aisle 8A, in which Hank babysitting Connie has to walk her through her first period, and Helenium, where Arla navigates Y2K hysteria. Check out our Pokemon video for more on that. The Simpsons spawned several attempts to capitalize on primetime animation throughout the 90s, but almost all of them were cancelled after just a season, with the exception of Duckman, but that held a niche audience, and has not really maintained the same relevance King of the Hill has. The success of King of the Hill proved the concept could be embraced, and in my opinion really paved the way for the cartoons that debuted in 1999. Now, these were the PJs, Futurama, and Family Guy. Each had their own unique identity, but compared to King of the Hill presented considerably edgier content. They were produced post-South Park, and so the envelope had been pushed further, and would continue to be, especially by Family Guy. Family Guy was created by Seth MacFarlane, who got his start in animation on Fred Seibert's What a Cartoon. His short, Larry and Steve, featured an oafish man and his intellectual talking dog. These served as the template for Peter and Brian on Family Guy. The series premiered after the Super Bowl on January 31st, 1999. The Broncos beat the Falcons, if anyone was wondering. Now, obviously, given it debuted, 1999 held the first and second seasons. I have a ton of nostalgia for this period of Family Guy. I bought the DVDs as soon as they were available. As it was animated and focused on a dysfunctional family, many claimed it was a ripoff of The Simpsons, which I can totally see that criticism. This show is unrecognizable when compared to its current form, particularly Stewie. I feel like they thought he was going to be the breakout star. He's in a lot of the promos with his evil genius gimmick, which was largely abandoned after the first couple of seasons. A few weeks earlier, The PJs premiered on January 10th. It was created by Larry Wilmore, Steve Tompkins, and Eddie Murphy, who also provided the voice of the show's star, Thurgood Stubbs. Thurgood is the super of an inner-city housing project, hence the PJs, and the series revolves around his interactions with the building's eclectic tenants. It followed in the tradition of Sanford & Son, The Jeffersons, and Good Times. Janae Dubois actually provided the voice of Mrs. Avery on the PJs, in being a sitcom that portrayed working-class African Americans. The animation was done at the iconic Will Vinton Studios, the same studio behind the California Raisins. It's absolutely excellent. Like Family Guy, 1999 hosted the PJ's first season. It was just 13 episodes, but it would return in time for a Christmas special, How the Super Stole Christmas, a parody of The Grinch. Its second season ran into 2000, but Fox dropped the show that year. The WB picked it up, where it ran until 2003. Futurama premiered in the spring of 1999. Now, this was Matt Groening's follow-up to The Simpsons, and just like it, it's been discussed a lot on this channel. To add to what's already been said, it was not a smooth debut. Fox executives were unhappy with the character Bender, an alcoholic robot. They felt he was too offensive for television. They also opposed the idea of suicide booths, believing they were too dark. I think it would be very difficult to live up to the heights set by The Simpsons' success. Instead of simply riding their coattails, Futurama set out to create its own identity. Though it took place in the 31st century, it parodied the 21st. I absolutely love the first few seasons. They do such a great job at establishing characters and building a world that feels like a logical future, at least at the time it was produced. Not so good now. I'm planning on doing a full video on Futurama for other series, retrofuturism and animation in the near future, so we will leave it at that for the time being. But the 3 series that debuted in 1999 were not long for this world. None made it past 2003, at least initially. This could be attributed to the fact they moved their time slots around constantly. At different points, they all aired on Sunday, after The Simpsons. They would usually air alongside one another. The PJs and Futurama aired on Tuesdays in the fall, while Family Guy moved from Sundays to Thursdays to Tuesday, which, in a different world, made appointment viewing very difficult. Many people believe Fox dropped the ball with these shows, though the network did attempt to cross-promote them. The Hills had previously appeared on The Simpsons. PJs would eventually be referenced on Futurama, and they all came together for this bit on The Simpsons episode Missionary Impossible, in a parody of PBS telethons. Now, I know this crossover is from early 2000, but it is the last time that these cartoons would come together. As we saw the PJs move to WB that year, Futurama was cancelled in 2003, but was later revived on Comedy Central, and King of the Hill went off the air in 2010. Family Guy and The Simpsons are still going strong, though, as of June 2020. And yeah, that just about wraps it up here. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't, and please consider supporting us on Patreon. We have a recent video looking back at obscure summer media featuring King of the Hill. There are also dozens of videos you can get access to for just $5 a month and keep these videos coming out regularly. As always, thank you so much for interest in this channel, and thank you so much for watching. Stay safe out there.